Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. And I am your host, C Money. And in this episode, this has been a rough couple of weeks. And I'm going to talk about this. It's going to be reflecting on us and everything. I know all of you know last week we've lost three of the greatest people out there. First off, we lost Malcolm Jamal Warner, who is a great actor. If y'all know him from his role as Theo Huxtable on the hit popular 80s show, The Cosby Show, which, was saddened to see that he, you know, even though he was, it wasn't, nothing, medical related, even though, things happen, he was gone at 54 years old. And then days later, we lost a rock star icon, Ozzy Osbourne. Even though I don't really know much about his music, but I know he was a icon legend in the rock business with the Osbournes, his wife Sharon Osbourne, and his family, and it's been crazy. And then days later, we get hit again with another heavy hitter, one of the best and legends in the wrestling game, Hulk Hogan. And I was like, come on now. This all happened in 1 week. You can imagine what was going, it's crazy. It's been like everybody on my timeline. And then there's another one that no one noticed. One of my social media people had posted this one. And this was, 1 second, I just had it. And this one, I don't know this person. It's a famed jazz musician called Chuck Mangione, or Mangione, Chuck Magnione, or however you want to call it. And he died. And I was like, really? It's a jazz musician. And I'm like, and you got to realize, within the past couple of years, since COVID, we've lost a lot. We've lost John Amos from Good Times, Jeanette Dubois from Good Times. You know them as James Evans and Walona Woods from Good Times. We've lost the legendary Tina Turner. You know, we've lost, countless people. And it is like back to back to back. They're going, and we just lost Hulk Hogan. We just lost Malcolm Jamal Warner. We just lost Ozzy Osbourne, and of course the jazz musician, and and it's like that these people are in good health, even though they may have medical issues and medical conditions. Even though Malcolm Jamal Warner, he died from a swimming. He drowned. He got caught in a rip current and he got drowned. But a lot of these, they was battling. They say Hulk Hogan was battling health issues. But that a lot of these celebrities, regardless if they die from health complications and health issues and medical conditions, they was healthy. Cause you realize these, just like the president. Like, remember when Joe Biden was running for president again, for another term, and and halfway through his term, and he was battling health issues, and I was saying this to a couple of people. I say there has to be an on-site medical physician that lives at the White House. So if anything happens to the president, regardless if it's Trump, Obama, Bush, wherever, there is a medical team that lives in that White House. So if in the middle of the night the president has a heart attack or something happens with the president, they got a medical person there on stat. Now I don't know if it's true or not, but if you do know, let me know because I always want to know, you know. But I think there's a medical team that is at the White House, so if anything happens to any of the personnel that's there at the White House at any time, there's a medical person on site instead of waiting 20, 30 minutes or so or more for an ambulance or a doctor to get there. They have an on-site doctor. But a lot of these people are living healthy lives because you got to realize when Tina Turner died, you knew Tina Turner had $1 million insurance policy, probably even more, on her legs. Tina Turner, even when she died, every picture you see Tina Turner in her 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, you always saw her legs. Her legs looked like she was in her 20s. Her legs was like, wow. You know, because, you know, once you get older, you know, your legs start looking different. You start seeing wrinkles and you start seeing, you know, baggage. You know, your legs got those, you know, stuff and all that. But her legs still looked amazing. And I'm like, these actors and these musicians and entertainers, they live a healthy life because when you start getting older and you go to the doctor, a lot of these doctors are going to start telling you, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, for us, it's different because, you know, a lot of us, we don't have health insurance. A lot of us, we don't have a primary doctor. So we can't go to somebody and say, oh, you know, this is this, you know, our form of, you know, getting better is taking aspirins and vitamins and supplements to say, okay, this is going to help me, and then exercising and stuff, not knowing that there's a lot going on within us that we don't know, and we just brush it up by saying, I'm going to take vitamin C, I'm going to take supplementary, you know, shakes and, you know, protein drinks and aspirins and all of this other stuff, you know, and it's going to help me, not knowing that we need more than that. We need medical attention, and a lot of these celebrities, they are. And I know Michael Jamal Warner was in the best of shape, you know, because the pictures that I've seen of him, you know, he, you know, had different roles. And, you know, a lot of these actors, you got to keep in shape to have different roles, whether you're, you know, he was on and Malcolm and Ed. He was on the Cosby Show. He had a short-lived TV show called Here and Now. I don't know if y'all know about it. Where it was kind of like a spin-off to the Cosby Show because remember he worked at a community center, and on the Cosby on the show Here and Now, and on the Cosby Show he did work at a community center, and then he did one of his favorite roles, Malcolm and Eddie, alongside Eddie Griffin. He was in the TV show The Resident, 911, and he had other projects he was doing. And for him, he did look in shape. And a lot of these male actors, they have to keep in shape because you never know. You might be up for a role as a police officer in a show, maybe SWAT or maybe, you know, certain, you know, CSI or things like that, or, you know, where you have to stay in shape. You know, or you have to look like you stay in shape because sometimes you have to be running and stuff and all of that, and they have to stay in shape. Women as well too. You know, there are a lot of women out there, you know, that have to keep in shape for their roles. And part of being in shape is also going to the doctor, getting checked up on the regular. And a lot of these celebrities are like that. It's just there are times when your body, you know, may say, hey, you're in health shape, but there's something wrong. You may eat the wrong type of food, or you may not. You know, you may have a cheat day where you exercise and eat right for 6 days of the week, and then on the 7th day you have a cheat day where you eat what you want to eat, and then your body be like, we can't do this, and things happen, and we just burn out, and then it comes to the point where, wow, you would have never guessed that Hulk Hogan, you know, and he's got to be one of the most fittest persons out there because he was a wrestler. And a lot of these wrestlers, even though there is allegedly that wrestling is fake, but I'm not going to say it is, I'm not going to say it ain't, you know, but, you know, a lot of these wrestlers, they have to stay in shape, especially these wrestlers that are bulky, like 20, 30, you know, 200, 300 pounds, you know, a lot of these big wrestlers, you know, that is overweight. You know, you have wrestlers like Rikishi, you know, Andre the Giant, you know, Big V, may he rest in peace, because he was one of them. You know, the Big Show. You had a lot of these wrestlers where, you know, and they had to keep in shape, you know, because they had to work out. You know, even though their body weight was the part of their um act on wrestling. It was a part of their of who they are in wrestling. Like Rikishi. Rikishi was a big person. You know, he wasn't tall. He was middle height, and he was a big person. And he's a big person. Not was. I'm saying he's a big person. And and Mark Henry. He was a big person. He was the world's strongest man. And how you become the world's strongest man. You have to exercise daily. You have to eat certain foods, right? And you have to keep that image. And a lot of these celebrities was like that. And the fact that you would say, "Oh, Hulk Hogan," and a lot of people probably saying he was one of the most healthiest people out there, things like that. But as you get older, you can still be healthy, but your body can take a toll. You can eat the right foods. You can eat, what I'm saying, drink the right drinks. You can drink protein shakes. You can do all of that, but it's up to your body. You can control what you eat and you can control what you drink, but your body controls everything that your mind can't. Your mind and your self mean, or I can go and eat healthy foods 3 days out of the week, or drink protein shakes, and drink healthier drinks and things like that. But your body can also maintain on what it wants. Cause you can eat healthy and your body's still saying, you know what, bunk it. Your body just shuts down, and I know that when he was passing, he probably was still exercising. You got to you got to maintain a image, and things like that, and yeah, he probably wasn't eating properly, like when you retire from acting and wrestling and a lot of those things, you start letting some rudiments, or you start letting some daily acts go. You start saying, oh, I don't need to exercise as much like I used to because I'm not wrestling no more, or I don't need to exercise or eat food like I used to because I'm retired from you know acting, like Jackie Chan and Sylvester Stallone and Rob Van Dam and a lot of these actors who, some of these actors, they did their own stunts and they did their own things, and you come at it and you say, okay, so they eat healthy and do everything. Now when they retire, you see, yeah, there's a lot of actors, when you see them when they was actors, they looked at poo poo pa pa. They had the body and everything, from female actors to male actors, and they had the body and they was like, ooh, they say the shape. And then once they started, stopped getting those roles and they started retiring and living their regular life, you start seeing them like they got a stomach, or oh my god, they don't look like something, they got big, and you have to maintain that image, and that's what a lot of these actors do. But at the same time, they still are healthy because they go to the doctor and get checked on regularly. The doctor may say, hey, you're gaining weight, but at the same time they're going to say, you're in good shape, you just gained a little weight and stuff. That might have been happened with Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne and a lot of the rest of these people. But at the same time, I look at it as if, woo, if they can't survive healthiness, what you think we can survive as human beings? And I see people that are younger than me that are going and that are dying because of health issues. And most people that die now, they're dying because of stupidness, whether it's gun violence, violence in general. They did the wrong thing by having unprotected sex and ended up catching the disease and dying, or they're doing things out of the ordinary. But a lot of these, I just watched an episode of Family Feud, and I was watching it with my mom, and it was Celebrity Family Feud, and we saw an episode with Patti LaBelle, and my mom was like, "Oh, she looks good to be," and I was like, "Patti LaBelle is like in 80, in her early 80s," and I'm like, "She does look good," and I say, because she has the best doctors out there. She is on tour now. She is on tour now with a lot of late legend, great Gladys Knight, Stephanie Mills. She's on tour, and it's called the Queen's Tour. If they're ever in your area, go get some tickets and stuff like that. And I was like, she looked good, and I was like, yes, because she probably has one of the best doctors out there that keeps her healthy. She eats healthy food and stuff, because at 80 years old, you start seeing the wrinkles. And I see it in my mom, and I see it in several others, because my mom is in her 80s. They got wrinkles, and they have sagging, skin from the arms to the legs, and it's wrinkled, and stuff like that. And some people, they have to wear glasses like my mom do, and I'm wearing them as well. But you're like, wow, she looks beautiful, like she hasn't aged. And then you realize, how is that? And I realized, hey, these celebrities have some of the best medical doctors out there, and not even medical doctors. There are some actors that have, you know, dermatology doctors. They have these cosmetology doctors that make them look like something. And you could be 90 years old and look like something. When Betty White passed away, you can tell she was in her 90s. Look at Marla Gibbs, the lady who played Florence on the Jeffersons, and was also on the hit TV show 227. She's in her 90s. And you can tell that she is in her 90s because she is aging gracefully. She still looks beautiful, but you can tell that she is up in age. And a lot, and I'm quite sure she has one of the best doctors out there, because you're in your 90s. You got to make sure that whatever you got is perfect. Because once you start getting up there in age, you can't just sit around and say, oh, I could take aspirin, or I could take medicines and pills and dietary supplements and all these vitamins to keep healthy. No, you literally need to be at a doctor, so a doctor can check everything on you to make sure you are healthy. Because pills and dietary supplements and protein shakes and all that, they may help, but they're not going to help you in the long run. By the time you reach 60 and 70, baby, you need to be in a doctor's. I know some 50-year-olds that are still out here, oh, I take this and I take that and I take that, and then they eventually end up in the hospital because their body took a toll for them. And it's not because of their daily lifestyle. It's because your body say, hey, I'm getting up there in age. You may eat healthy and you may drink, healthy stuff, and you may live a healthy lifestyle, but your body be like, hey, you may be jogging at 50 years old, and then your body like, I'm tired of jogging. Oh, we need to slow down, and then your body starts changing and stuff like that. Remember, when I turned 40, was at the beginning of COVID, and when I went back to work, I just had turned 40 like months before I went back to work. And when I went back to work, and I told you this story several times, I was worn out, and my body hasn't been the same since. And I look at it as if, yeah, I try to change my lifestyle. And it is not just because of what you eat. It's because of, your body changes as you get older. And with a lot of these celebrities, they go to the doctors and say, hey, look, I got a couple of $1,000. Make me look like something, or make me feel, like I'm young. I can go out there, and they tell you exercise, and they give them all these, white regimens and medicines and, pills and things like that. For us, it's not that easy. We ain't got a $2,000-$3,000 to kick out for people. We go to the doctor and they say something wrong with us. Hey, what can we do? The best thing we can do is try to exercise and live a perfect life. And sometimes that's not the best way, because we don't have the best doctors and and a lot of money to get surgeries, and a lot of these things. Our back hurting, we ain't got money to get back surgery, so we take back pain medicine to do it. I know one point my mom's leg was hurting, and she had to go to her doctor, and the doctor gave her a shot in her leg, because it was hard for her to walk. And then it came back, and they didn't give her a shot in the leg that hurt. They gave her a shot in the other leg. So and I'm like, yeah, because I thought, but it could be a serious situation where she could have surgery. Hey, we don't have money. I had surgery twice. I don't think I've ever told you this. When I was a little kid, when I was in my teenage years, I had a birth defect, and this is I have two other brothers and a sister, and me and my other brothers, we all have hernias, and I had to have hernia surgery in my teenage years. My brothers, I think they had it in their adult stages, but I've had it in my teenage. And I had another surgery in my adulthood that resulted in a birth defect with my testicles. And if y'all don't know what testicles is, it's basically, I don't want to say it because it's we're a family ordinary tour and we're like a clean show, but it's your nut sack. aka your balls, But basically, I had, a situation with that and everything. And, I have to get that checked up on the regular because it could result into cancer. And a lot of these people out here, you know, they can't afford, they go to the doctors and something wrong with them, and then they say, oh, you got to have surgery and stuff like that, to the point where we can't afford surgery. Even though some of us may or may not have insurance, it is hard, And, because, these insurance companies, they only cover half of your bill. Let's say your surgery is $5,000. Where you gonna come up with that? Insurance probably pay half of that, but you got to pay the rest and things like that. So a lot of these celebrities, I got $5,000. I don't feel good. Make me better again. So the fact that a lot of these celebrities, they are dying out here, is that, woo, it makes you think that even the celebrities can't even stay healthy, and they have money to stay healthy. It's just your body is saying you're living healthy, you're doing everything you're doing right, but maybe I need a break. Your body shuts down on you for a lot of it. And I know a lot of us, a lot of these celebrities, they die because of wrongful things. You know how some of these celebrities, not gonna say any names, they die of a drug overdose or drinking overdose. I remember one of the members of, and this was recently, one of the members of One Republic was going through something, and he ended up, it was a suicidal, I think it was, or something like that. And I think he was on drugs or something like that. But allegedly, because I'm not gonna say. And it was like, wow. And a lot of these celebrities, they die because it happens. You remember what happened with Michael Jackson? He didn't die on his own. It's the doctor prescribed him too much of a medicine, and he died from that. Remember when Whitney Houston died? They found her in the tub, faced up. She was on drugs and things like that. May she rest in peace. May he rest in peace. And the same thing with her daughter and things like that. And I look at it as if, yeah, but besides the drug addiction and things like that, you have to realize Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson was probably one of the most healthiest people out there. Michael Jackson probably had his own living medical doctor that lived with him, that prescribed, I'm not saying medical, but I'm guessing, I don't know if the doctor that, went to trial and went to jail, the doctor that killed him, allegedly, I don't know if that was his living doctor, but I'm quite sure Michael Jackson had a doctor where he can call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I'm not feeling good. I got a headache and it won't go away, and I'm trying to, and I took aspirin, and where the doctor can be, oh, I'll be there in 5 minutes, or the doctor lived next door, or maybe the doctor lived on site and things like that. A lot of these people, they have the resources and the financial ability to do it, and the fact that they are dying and they're gone, we all know because of Michael Jamal Warner. He died because of, he was swimming in Costa Rica with his family, and he drowned in a rip current, that he caught in a rip current, and he drowned. But I can tell you right now, he probably was in the most healthiest shape out there because he had the most best medical care ever. He had one of the best doctors out there, and he lived a healthy life. And a lot of these celebrities, they do that. They have to live. I'm quite sure Marley Gibbs lives a healthy life because she's in her 90s. Same thing with Betty White before she passed away. It's just that our bodies say, I'm done. I can't keep, how you have a factory and you work in a factory, and then eventually you're like, it's too much work. We got to shut this factory down. I can't produce no more. It's done. I can't produce. That's what your body is. Your body get to the point and say, hey, look, I'm done. I've been working for 90-something years trying to keep you healthy and happy and all this. I'm tired. I just need to stop. And then your body shuts down, and you could be in the most healthiest life and you could live the most healthiest life and be the most healthiest person out there. It's just something in your body just can say phew, and shut down and instantly. The doctor can tell you, oh, you're healthy, and then the next day you're dead. Because your body knows what is best for you. You may know what's best for yourself by eating healthy foods and drinking healthy supplements and, taking all of these, pills and vitamins and stuff like that. But until you know what's your body and the inside of your body is saying to you, you're never. Now, you may disagree with me on this one, but this is how I'm seeing life. Because a lot of these people who lived healthy lives, they just die instantly. It's because their body said something ain't right or something happened in their body to where, maybe you exercise too much and they say we can't take no more exercising. Click, heart attack, or you eating too much healthy food and we tired of it. Click, and things like that. So your body, the inside of your body, is like a living person inside of you. Because you have different settings. You're like two and three people in one person. Your brain is one person. Your heart is one person. The inside of your body, your organs, your liver, kidney, and all that, that's one person. Because remember, you have different bodily function. Your brain is your mind. But you do have all of these bodily functions that operates on its own and have an own mind. Because when you eat something bad and your stomach start hurting, that's because your stomach's saying, I don't like this. It's not good. And then you start getting stomach pains and stuff like that, just like with a hernia. You start lifting stuff and they say, you're lifting too much. Now we're in pain. Click, you get a hernia, and things like that. Even though mine was a birth defect and as far it was a medical condition, and it's the same with my brothers, it was hereditary. And it was the fact that your body controls you. You think you can control it. You think you're controlling your body by drinking, protein shakes, drinking the right drinks, eating the healthiest foods and stuff like that. You're only controlling your body for what you're intaking. But your body still controls everything else. And regardless of what you're intaking, your body can still reject what you're intaking and it can still control whatever you got going on. Because it doesn't matter if you're eating vegan burgers or meaty burgers, meatless burgers or meaty burgers. It doesn't matter if you're eating salad or pizza. Whatever your body say goes. Whatever is inside your body saying it goes. I want to know what you think about this. Do you think that you control your body or you think that your body controls your body? Because in your mind, you can control certain parts of your body, meaning you can control what you eat, you can control what you drink, you can control the vitamins and stuff you take, but in reality, you can't control what goes on in the inside of your body. You can only help it by intaking certain things that can keep your body clean, like stuff to help clean your colon and a lot of these supplements that help with your mind, and how they got these pills to help with your brain memory, and they got a lot of these pills and a lot of these drinks that help with your joint muscles and all of that stuff. But there are certain parts of your body you cannot control. Do you think that this is true or not true? Rest in peace to all of who we lost within the past 5 years. And not only that, rest in peace to a lot of these celebrities we have lost within years. It is heartbroken that just this past week we've lost 4 people in 1 week. And this is crazy. I want to know what y'all think about this. Rest in peace, Michael Jamal Warner. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Rest in peace to the jazz musician. I can't say his name right. Chuck One or whatever, however you say it. Prayers up for the Warner family. Prayers up to the Osbournes. Prayers up to the Hogan family, and prayers up to Chuck and his family members. It is hard. So I want to know what you think about this. Comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. I want to know what y'all think about this. Do y'all think that, these celebrities are living healthy lives? Do you know any celebrities that are not living healthy lives? Do you think that our body controls us and we don't control our bodies. What do you think about this? Comment, let me know what you think about this. I appreciate y'all, and please don't forget to comment, and please, send a prayer out to these celebrities and their families, for it is a crucial time right now, and we are losing celebrities and people, like heartbreak. We're losing them like the quickness. So prayers up, and as always, I say stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and of course stay healthy. This is the Round Table Talk. I am your host C Money, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.